Max Verstappen is shocked that he has to work hard for points this season. His public frustration has fed into rumours of him leaving the team, a move allegedly being orchestrated by his father Jos from the shadows. Christian Horner isn't worried, though, as both he and Helmut Marko are eyeing a replacement for the Dutchman, McLaren's Lando Norris. Let's dive right in. After their extremely dominant 2023 season, Max Verstappen and Red Bull Racing didn't expect to have that kind of success in 2024. But Verstappen himself was surprised by how competitive this season has turned out to be, as his team was still expected to be the leading force. While no one anticipated a repeat of last year's dominance, it was generally expected that Verstappen and Red Bull would be well ahead of the competition. It seemed that way after the first few races of the year, but since the Miami GP, Red Bull has faced more challenges than anticipated. Verstappen admitted that, like we had last year, it's very rare that you have this kind of season. So I was always prepared for it. I just didn't think that it would happen so quickly, to have that kind of swing in performance compared to the other teams. Personally, I think no one would have thought that. But that's beautiful. People always think, oh, it's going to be boring, blah, 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 and a season like this comes along. I would have liked to have won a little bit more lately. But, to be honest, I always feel like I'm in competition with myself anyway. So that doesn't matter if you're like 20-30 seconds ahead, or you're fighting. Of course, the fans always like to see the closer battles. But just personally, of course, you always try to extract the maximum out of it. If that's now fighting with other teams or not, right? You always try to push to the limit. The Dutchman has always been vocal on the radio, but lately, he's been sounding more frustrated than usual. Verstappen acknowledges that frustration is a natural part of elite sports, but in Formula One, unlike in other sports, everything is broadcast publicly, which means drivers get criticised for their on-air comments. Even after the Belgian Grand Prix, Verstappen had to address his radio messages to race engineer Giampiero Lambiase once again during a chat with F1 TV. He said, "Of course, things get broadcasted as well, right? If everything will be broadcasted in other sports, you might hear a lot of stuff. I just care a lot. I want to always get the best out of myself, get the best out of the team. And yes, of course, that brings frustrations. I think it's normal to be frustrated when things are not going how you would like it to be. And then after the race, you analyse everything and you move on." Max Verstappen finds himself miles away from his situation in 2023. This year, we've seen 7 different race winners, and Verstappen hasn't claimed a victory since the Spanish Grand Prix. On the F1 Nation podcast, former world champion Damon Hill talked about the frustration Verstappen has been feeling lately regarding his own performance and that of the team. Verstappen hasn't been on the podium since the British Grand Prix weekend. He also showed visible frustration in Hungary, where he had a heated exchange of radio messages with his engineer. When asked about how the 3-time world champion will tackle the final 10 races, Hill said, "Well, I think he's shown slight frustration. He's been quite critical of the team and he wants to see more action because he's starting to have to work a lot harder than he has been used to in the last couple of years. I think he will have to fight really hard for this championship." In 2023, Verstappen was well ahead of the competition, with his teammate Sergio Perez close enough to help the team rack up significant points. But Perez has had a tough season this year, while teams like McLaren and Mercedes have made huge strides. Lando Norris is now second in the drivers' standings, and a 4-way battle has emerged in the Constructors' Championship between Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari and Mercedes. Hill believes that if Verstappen wants to maintain his position at the front, Red Bull will need to make some changes. He added that, "I'm sure they can come up with a little bit more pace for him on the development of the car, but he's still going to be chased hard all the way through to the end." Even Lewis Hamilton is convinced that Red Bull lost form. He believes Formula One fans can expect plenty more excitement in the second half of the season, with Mercedes, Red Bull, McLaren and Ferrari all competing at the front. The outgoing Mercedes driver described the current situation as great for F1 overall. He said, "It's really fantastic, I think, for the sport to be having such close teams and drivers. The pedigree of drivers at the top today are really elite and amazing. We didn't expect to be competing with the McLarens or the Red Bulls at this point in the season, with how we started off. So for us to now have closed up and it's going to be one hell of a second half of the season for sure." Regarding whether his and the team's recent form might turn into a surprise title challenge for 2024, ahead of his move to Ferrari, the British and Belgian Grand Prix winner responded, "No, it would be high hopes. But if we can continue this kind of performance, as we've had the last few races, which has been fantastic, I think if we can start our weekends off a little bit better, hopefully we can continue. I think, obviously, the McLaren was very strong in Belgium. We were just a bit further ahead in the race. But yeah, we've just got to keep pushing. Hamilton's teammate, George Russell, believes that the tight battles at the front also suggest a promising multi-team title fight for next year. When you look at the competition now, you know there's no reason why we can't fight. And if the season started in Montreal, the championship standings would be looking very, very different. It's going to be great. It's not going to be easy. And hopefully we see a good fight on our hands into next year. Because of Red Bull's shortcomings, Jos Verstappen is reportedly shopping for a new home for his son in 2026. And just this week, there have been whispers that Aston Martin is allegedly eager to sign him. Not only that, Toto Wolff is still willing to go to great lengths, like doing backflips, just to bring Verstappen to Mercedes. If Verstappen does leave, Red Bull team principal Christian Horner will have a tough job figuring out the team's new driver lineup. And with all the talk this season about a Max Verstappen shock exit, Horner has already drawn up a contingency plan. He will be looking for a top-tier driver to fill the shoes of the three-time world champion. While Red Bull has promising talents like Liam Lawson, Isaac Hadjar and even 16-year-old Arvid Lindblad, none of them are expected to be serious world championship contenders by 2026. Instead, Horner has his sights set on Lando Norris, although Norris has shown strong loyalty to McLaren, the team that helped him rise through the junior ranks and into F1. The departure of Verstappen might give Horner the opportunity to attract the British driver to Milton Keynes. Red Bull's admiration for Norris is well known. In the latest season of the Netflix series Drive to Survive, Horner mentioned that, "We'd certainly be interested in him. If he's delivering, he's not going to be short of choices. He's just got to assure he makes the right choice." I admire Lando's loyalty to McLaren, but at some point that will wear thin. I think he would fit in our environment longer term. Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko has also expressed his admiration for Norris. He mentioned this during an interview with Service TV earlier this year where he said, "He is young and certainly in our focus. His father always jokes that Lando won't celebrate his first Grand Prix victory until Max retires. I told him that he had to come to us, then it would definitely go faster." If Red Bull manages to attract Norris from McLaren, they would probably pair him with a driver from their own system. It's unlikely that Sergio Perez will be that driver, as he might struggle to keep his seat in 2025, let alone in 2026. Daniel Ricciardo could face a similar situation if he doesn't improve his performance in the final 10 races of 2024. This would leave Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson as the most likely candidates to move up to Red Bull in 2026. The former, having spent 4 years at V-Carb, is a known quantity, but despite his strong performance this year, there are still concerns about his ability to handle the pressure of driving for Red Bull. On the other hand, Red Bull's evaluation of Lawson is very positive, with the team holding him in high regard. The New Zealander seems to be a strong candidate for a seat at V-Carb in 2025, and if he has a solid rookie season, he could be in line for a spot at Red Bull in 2026. Horner is reportedly impressed by the 22-year-old's confidence and attitude, making him a great potential teammate for Norris. And that's all for today's F1 News Roundup. How do you feel about a Lando Norris Red Bull team-up? Tell us in the comment section down below, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thanks for watching.